It's Sunday, the 6th of July, 2025. Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to News 360, live from our studio here, number 35, John Hammond Street in Accra. I am Noble Crosby Annan.
And I'm Ayisha Yakubu. Coming up the headlines.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal,
EcoBank.
Family demands justice after 18-year-old students fatally shot during Fire Festival procession in Bimbela in the northern region. While the Ghana National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons is working on a new law to regulate the use of firearms.
Evangelist Annan claims his sentencing fulfills God's glory and denies all charges as he leads Sunday church service without his wife.
Later, we explore how Ghanaian men are struggling silently with depression under the weight of masculinity and societal expectations.
We'll bring you some international news as U.S. deports 8 dangerous criminals to South Sudan following a legal battle that saw them diverted to Djibouti for several weeks. We have details of these stories and a lot more coming to you shortly. A reminder that there's more news on our website, 3news.com. Let's start the bulletin from here.
The Ghana AIDS Commission has issued a stark warning over the state of HIV/AIDS treatment in the country. According to the Ghana AIDS Commission, more than half of people living with the virus are not receiving life-saving antiretroviral therapy. Data from the Commission reveals that only 334,721 people living with HIV, representing just 47% of the HIV-positive population, are currently on ART. A staggering 52.6% remain untreated, a situation the Commission described as alarming and one that threatens to derail Ghana's ongoing efforts to control the epidemic. Going to discuss this a bit further, we've been joined by Dr. Fred Nanapoku. He is Director, Technical Services at the Ghana AIDS Commission. He joins us via Zoom. Doc, good evening to you. Can you tell us what the main reasons why over half of people living with HIV in Ghana are not on antiretroviral therapy?
Right. Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity, and good evening to your listeners. Yes, let's get these facts right. The total number of people living in Ghana estimated to be living with HIV is over 334,700 people. That first figure is about 334,721 people are living with HIV.
Thank you for the correction.
Out of this number, quite a number of them that do not even know that they have the virus. And that is very scary, because if you do not know that you have the virus, you live anyhow, your own health is at stake, then you have the propensity to easily transmit this virus to other people when you engage in sexual activity and other risky behaviors. So unfortunately, out of this 334,721, about 227,000 know their HIV status as having HIV. And again, unfortunately, not all of these people are on treatment. Just about 150,000 people are using the antiretroviral therapy, which are highly effective and which suppresses the virus. This is a very unfortunate situation because we know the benefits of taking the medication. That is why currently the principle that we are using is test and treat. It means that immediately you are tested, you are confirmed as having the virus, irrespective of your CD4 level, you are placed on the medication, because that will suppress the viruses from multiplying in your body, that will ensure that your health is restored and you are strong to go about your normal duty. And if you reach a state we call viral suppression, you are unable to transmit this virus sexually to other partners when you have intercourse. So treatment is very, very vital in our course of events. And we see that as a very crucial step for people who have contracted HIV. Thank you.
So, Doc, this low treatment rate, what kind of risk does it pose to Ghana's efforts in controlling the HIV/AIDS epidemic?
Yes, as I said, in the first place, the people are not going to be well. They can easily slip into the AIDS stage, which is a stage where you have other multiple diseases affecting your immune system, affecting your entire system, and you can easily die. In fact, in 2024, we recorded more than 12,000 related AIDS-related deaths. That is also not a good thing in our current day and time. It's something that should not happen. The second issue is that because you are not taking the medication, you're putting almost everybody at risk because your viruses are not suppressed, and then you are easily transmitting the virus to other people when you engage in sexual activity. And that will ensure that we do not reach epidemic control. So people who have the virus and are not taking the medicine, as individuals, we should encourage everybody to test. As I said, we have a whole number of people who do not know their status. About 38% of people who have HIV do not even know that they have the virus because they've not tested. And then those who even know, only just about half are taking the medication. And it is not a good thing at all. We are going to have unhealthy situation, unhealthy citizens, and we're also going to have increased new infections in the country. It is no wonder that currently we have, in fact, in 2024, we had more than 15,000 new infections occurring in Ghana. And that is an unfortunate situation.
Doc, finally, has the recent aid cut by the United States affected your general operations at the Ghana AIDS Commission?
Yes, it has. Certainly, the pepper cuts, we estimated about $14 million that was supposed to have come into the country in 2025. That was being withheld. We are lucky that some way, some amount of work has been initiated, but not to its full blown activities as it is. Now, PEPFAR was supporting three regions, Bono East, and Ahafo, supporting the Ghana Health Service and all partners in ensuring that people get their medications, ensuring that pre-exposure prophylaxis is made available to vulnerable groups and who really need them. PEPFAR was also supporting at the HQ, at the headquarters with important lab and statistical. In fact, this estimate is being contributed by the efforts of PEPFAR and other partners. So these are issues that are going to be affected if their continued cuts goes on. We are fortunate in one area in that most of our medications for the response is being sponsored by the Global Fund and partly by the government of Ghana. PEPFAR does not really support medications apart from the PrEP and a few others. So that was not too much of a blow. But in other areas, such as our strategic information generation, including the estimates that we're talking about, and the figures that we get about HIV, they support things like that and other laboratory equipment and laboratory technologies.
Okay, no, thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. Certainly, the issue of HIV/AIDS is something more attention must be put on. Dr. Fred Nanapoku is Director Technical Services at the Ghana AIDS Commission.
Now, from health concerns to a heartbreaking festival tragedy, the family of an 18-year-old student of Bimbilla Senior High School in the Nanumba North municipality of the Northern region, who died after being hit by a bullet in the head during a fire festival procession in Bimbilla, is calling for justice. The deceased, identified as Abubakar Fatima, was part of a procession heading to Wampu to dispose of their flaming torch as part of the celebration. She has since been buried in line with Islamic tradition.
The entire Bimbilla town was thrown into a state of mourning when news of the passing of Fatima broke. Where janaza prayers, her residents, family members and friends. She was our only hope as a family, but now she's been killed in such a horrible situation. We leave everything to Allah and call for justice. Even before the celebration, Regent of Bimbilla issued a directive warning residents against the use of live ammunition during the procession. But this directive was defied.
Everyone out there, the youth, they should stop drugs. They should do their best to let drugs not be part of their lives. And these drugs definitely will not support them for us to reach where we go to reach when it comes to the development of.
On Saturday, July 5, during a procession of the fire festival, an unidentified man wielding a locally manufactured single-barrel gun allegedly pulled the trigger, hitting the deceased in the head and killing her instantly. Police were immediately called and the body was conveyed to the Bimbilla Hospital morgue. No arrest has since been made. In a related development, 2 persons from Salaga in the East Gonja municipality of the Savannah region are battling for their lives at the Tamale Teaching Hospital after sustaining gunshot injuries during the 2025 Fire Festival on Saturday, July 5.
Meanwhile, the acting executive secretary of the Ghana National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Dr. Adam Bona, says the commission is working on a new law to regulate the use of firearms in the country. Dr. Bona spoke on Weekend Central in response to the death of an 18-year-old student who was killed by stray bullets at the Fire Festival in Bimbilla.
We have done what we can do, but unfortunately, as an agency that is supposed to be monitoring and helping other agencies to combat this, what I can say with certainty is that the laws governing the regulation of firearms and the way they are used is so old, so much so that we can only, if you ask the police, they will tell you there is no law that forbids people from using live ammo at festivals. And so at the moment, what we are doing is to refine the existing law. We have a bill that is at the ministerial level pending to go through the process and be, promulgated into law. Where festivals like this, if you are caught using a live ammo, you would be punished, because then it looks like most of our festivals and celebrants have resorted to the use of live ammo instead of using non-lethal ammunition. And to the extent that some are using military-graded, weapons, M16s. We've seen them in the full glare of the public. Unfortunately, nothing was done in the last administration. This administration, if you ask me, I will tell you that we are on the verge of getting, strengthened guns, firearm, laws in this country. And once that is done, it becomes, a tool for us to be able to ensure that those who are bringing them don't sell them to celebrants. You can only sell them to those who want to use them for hunting and those who want to use them for other purposes apart from celebrations. It happened in Accra at the Bobu Ulomo's celebration where a woman was shot with live ammo. And so we seem to be racing, behind those who are doing this. But hopefully, when this law is passed, hopefully in the next month or two, we should be able to curb this. But at the moment, we can only attempt to sensitize celebrants and, during occasions like this.
While the gun debate continues, tension is also brewing on the labor front because the Teachers Educational Workers Union TEU of the Trade Union Congress has condemned what it describes as an illegal and reckless nationwide strike declared by a breakaway faction calling itself the Tertiary Education Workers Union, TEU-GH. Let's engage King James Azotiba, who is the General Secretary of TEU-TUC. James, thank you for your time with us. Good evening to you. You have condemned the strike action by TEU Ghana in describing same as arbitrary, undemocratic, irresponsible. Now, what is their right if they wish to strike, is it not?
Yeah, good evening to you and your listeners. Yes, the right to strike is a right that is enshrined in the Constitution of Ghana, but it comes with responsibilities. And for that matter, we are saying that the breakaway splinter group, calling itself the Tertiary Educational Workers Union, they are a breakaway group from my union, the Teachers and Educational Workers Union. They had, before 2020, been our local union executives, and by virtue of that position that they held as local union chairmen, we made them to represent the Teachers and Educational Workers Union at the various university councils, especially Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology and the University of Development Studies. These are the two trouble spots. And they served their 2 terms, mandatory to serve under our leadership. After their 2 terms, they said they will not go. And the site decided that they want to break away. So if you break away, you break away, yes. The laws of Ghana encourage 2 or 3 people to form a union. Yes, we know. The pluralization of trade unionism is not in the best interest of the Ghanaian worker. But yeah, that is the law, and we all respect it. But the law also says that where the status, the university, the law that establishes the various universities, since 1960, before I was born, the Teachers and Educational Workers Union was there. And the leadership of the Teachers and Educational Workers Union were the reps in council. And we have been in council until 2020. That this group of these granted former executive officers who have broken away and are trying to make claims that does not exist anywhere in law. Thankfully, the Director General of the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, who had ensured all this time that there's
Okay, James, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line. I think I'm getting some crack.
Yeah, we lost you for a moment. But the strike is over the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission directive to all public traditional universities to swear in TEU of TUC representatives. But TEU-GH also want representation. They say that their numbers is more than that of the TEU-TUC. Is that not a fair demand to make? Unfortunately, we're having challenges connecting or continuing the conversation with King James Azotiba of the TUC. When we reach him, we'll bring you that conversation. Let's do some other stories here on News 360.
The husband of incarcerated leader and founder of the Heavenway Champion International Ministries, Angel Kwabena Isiama, says the sentencing of Evangelist Patricia Siedua, popularly known as Nana Agrada, is part of fulfilling the glory of God. Leading the Sunday service, he, however, denied all charges against their leader.
A handful of church members gathered at the Heavenway Champion International Ministries Sunday, July 6th, to hold a service dedicated to their incarcerated leader, Evangelist Patricia Siedua, also known as Nana Agrada. Sadness filled the auditorium with some members openly wailing during the service, which was attended by Agrada's biological parents, brother and spiritual father. Her husband, Angel Kwabnesiama, was visibly emotional, pacing the altar and frequently wiping tears from his eyes as he prepared to address the congregation. The church's music ministry stepped in with interludes to calm the atmosphere and help Angel Isiama compose himself before finally delivering the sermon. A special prayer session was held for the incarcerated leader. Before the service began, church authorities issued a strict directive barring the use of mobile phones in the auditorium. Eventually, Angel Kwabnesiama found his voice. He told the congregation that his wife's incarceration was divinely ordained to reveal the power and glory of God.
The disciples also suffered the same fate as our leader. Paul and Silas were imprisoned and chained, but when their time came, they were set free. So we are not disturbed. If God has sent her to Nsawam prison to deliver his message, who are we to question it?
He further denied the allegations that led to Agrada's imprisonment, adding that he too may be jailed in connection with the same matter.
As I stand before you today preaching the word, it's possible that one day I may also join my wife in prison. It's all part of the mission, and I have come to accept that.
However, this declaration stirred unease among some congregants. They argued that it validated a viral video Nana Agrada herself had released prior to her conviction.
Angel Asiama, ye criminals. We are two criminals. And Yakaya Wabono. It's more being Yana say, or we met near my king, and we met near Pro Angel Asiama.
Nana Agrada's parents also addressed the church, speaking emotionally about their daughter's current predicament. After the service, tensions fled when some members tried to block journalists from filming outside the church premises. In a dramatic scene, one irate church member was seen dragging herself on the dusty road, cursing at journalists and attempting to disrupt their work. Despite the chaos, members of the Heavyweight Champion International Ministries remained resolute. Their message was unambiguous. They will continue to stand by their spiritual leader, with unwavering hope that Nana Agrada will be granted clemency and return to lead them once again. While public sentiment about Nana Agrada's conviction remains divided, her loyal followers are holding on to faith rather than facts, choosing to interpret her legal troubles as a spiritual trial. Whether her incarceration will ultimately lead to redemption or further controversy remains to be seen. Stanley Nibleu, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's do some other stories. And a founding member of the opposition New Patriotic Party, Dr. Charles Yakubu, has asked the NPP to stop being destructive and allow the government to work. Dr. Yakubu says the utterances and actions of leaders within the party show that they are only out to distract instead of allowing the government to work, or at least for a year, before punching holes in what it is currently being done. He spoke in an exclusive interview with Beatrice Edu.
Every day, since the beginning of the year, the opposition has been trying to use every occasion to tell Ghanaians how nobody understood all the good they did, even giving the impression that Ghanaians made a mistake in voting them out because they didn't understand all the achievements. And every opportunity that is available is taken to try and give the impression that the government did better than Ghanaians decided on. Rather than, just sitting down for at least a year to reflect on your defeat, allowing government to get on with trying to implement what it asked the Ghanaians to let it implement, and then in about a year or two be in a position to start to punch holes if you think that you did far better. But it seems to me that all that is happening in Parliament is an attempt to try and relitigate election 2024 and try to give the impression that everything that is being done successfully under Mahama either started from MPP or was due to some things that we are not convinced about.
You said that with the current numbers of the NDC government, they can actually choose to ignore the opposition. That would not be democracy.
Oh, no. I mean, the point is that the NDC and its independent supporters have 2/3 of parliament. So they do not need to waste their time being distracted by an opposition which is just trying to score points. You know, democracy also requires that once we've had an election, we should give room for the government who has been elected to show us what it can do. With democracy doesn't mean that you spend every day from day one really litigating the election and trying to set in train the next election.
Well, but do all analysts agree with Dr. Brobe there? Let's see the views of political analyst Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. Doc, thank you for your time. Good evening to you. You've just listened to Dr. Yakubu. Do you agree with his view that the MPP is, at the moment, just being disruptive?
Well, let me say briefly to your viewers. You couldn't have said it any better, because for me, what I see with the MPP's leadership in terms of their criticism of the current government is the fact that it appears uncoordinated. It is uncoordinated because now their focus is who should become the presidential candidate more than building the structures of the party. And it also is uncoordinated because we have a situation where the current government is simply not making mistakes. They are simply not creating scandals on a weekly or daily basis. We are seeing a situation where the cedi is appreciating against the dollar. We are seeing a situation where fuel prices have been going down, transport fares going down. Obviously, we are seeing some trickling down effect in other imported commodities, not wholesale though. We still have a long way to go as a nation. And so it appears to me that they are rather not engaging in constructive criticism, and they are clutching on straws. Because sometimes, for example, you see, when you create a hill out of a molehill, like, for example, the president receiving petitions with respect to the removal and then, the operationalization of Article 146 and so on and so forth. Why you see a situation where the president and the Council of State are strictly following what the Constitution dictates. Now, you find it difficult as to how to tackle that than to find a way of distracting the government, so to speak, and they're coming out to respond to things that are not necessary. And if you look at, for example, the oral campaign, they want to ensure that Ghanaians are not shortchanged. So at this moment, it is very difficult. The government appears to have the goodwill of the masses, and that has been exemplified by the poll that Global Informatics just did not few days ago. And so, in actual fact, they did not hasten slowly. From the word go, for example, like the period of the vetting, you could see that Mr. Afenya-Markins was bent on creating, some kind of brouhaha as a way of courting sympathy for what the so-called micro giant minority. I don't know, I've forgotten the term that they've been using. And so it is merely a distraction. And so the venerable Dr. Yakubu couldn't have said it any better. And I agree with him. Probably they may have to, that's why I said that, they may have to take a backstage. Maybe they should take their time, get the leadership right, get the party structures right. And once it is coordinated, they can, with authorities given to the new executive, they will be able to, punch holes, and all those who have been elected will have had the mandate of the people to be able to do the things that opposition parties do.
Dr. Ochiri, so if the NDC should be giving some time, how long is enough time? And while you're at that, what is wrong if the opposition doing what they are supposed to do in criticizing the government, is trying to put government on its toes to do, well, they're doing well, you say, but if they can do better, what is wrong if the NPP wants to push the NDC to do better? Briefly.
Well, there's nothing wrong with the NPP trying to push the party government to do what is right by the people. But the problem is where there is no wrong, it is difficult to criticize. But as to the time, I cannot tell, but I remember when the NDC lost power when Mr. Rawlings, Professor Mills lost power, I think he gave President Kufuor 6 months. He said for the next 6 months of his regime, he was not going to complain, compare, contrast, and say nothing until after 6 months. And so it was in later period that they began, in a coordinated fashion to criticize the government of President Kufuor. And so I think that the belligerence in the current leadership is something that leaves to be desired, and they can do better. Maybe they can take some kind of, sometimes miracles Abuaji does well sometimes, but occasionally he gets it wrong because he's also a bit passionate, maybe because of his support for Dr. Bamia. So maybe they can get it better.
Jonathan Asante-Ochiri is a political analyst speaking with us there. Let's do some other stories tonight.
Moving on, the 24-hour economy policy was launched by President Mahama on July 2, 2025. And this explainer, Judith Brown, explores the vision behind this policy, the sectors involved, how it will be implemented, its benefits, and the challenges it seeks to address.
What if the lights never dimmed in Ghana's industries? What if innovation and progress continued day and night? Well, from dawn till dusk and dusk till dawn, the 24-hour economy, if properly implemented, is set to redefine Ghana's future. But what is it all about? Well, let's take a closer look. The 24-hour economy policy aims to transform Ghana's economy by promoting activities and services that operate around the clock. Estimated to cost a whopping $4 billion, the policy aims to increase productivity, create jobs, and stimulate economic growth by maximizing the use of the country's resources and infrastructure.
Let me be clear here. The 24H Plus agenda is not simply about extending working hours. It is about unleashing productivity, expanding opportunity, accelerating exports through well-structured, multi-sectoral, and inclusive interventions.
The vision behind this policy is to position Ghana as a modern, competitive, and thriving economy that operates efficiently and effectively with objectives including increasing economic activity, creating employment opportunities, and improving the overall quality of life for Ghanaians. Well, several sectors will be involved in the implementation of this policy, including transportation, hospitality and tourism, healthcare, finance and banking, and manufacturing and industry, providing services 24 hours a day. Presidential advisor on the 24-hour economy, Guzi Tano, stressed the policy will exist to serve the Ghanaian people and not just a political party.
Nobody is going to be left out in this program. The only thing is that because the resources are limited, we can't do everywhere at once. So what we try to do is look at those areas where we believe will be the growth poles that will also pull up neighboring districts and neighboring countries, that they can also rise gradually as these core growth poles also grow. I assure you that we're all involved in this matter, whether you are red or you're green or you're blue.
The policy is set to be implemented through a multi-stakeholder approach involving government agencies, private sector players, and civil society organizations. And for businesses, there will be policy incentives including no import duties, targeted tax exemptions, no corporate tax on strategic agri-production, and many more. But the policy is already facing some criticism. Political scientist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Joshua Zato, describes it as not nationalistic in nature.
The argument then seems to be that The reason why companies and businesses are not doing 3 or 4 shifts in employment is because they don't have incentives. That argument becomes wrong.
For Professor of Finance at the University of Ghana, Professor Godfred Bokpin, establishing a special organization with the status of an authority to implement the policy will be costly for the country.
We should be looking at the cost of implementing our development policies and the rest of them so that we don't burden the taxpayer.
Well, despite these criticisms, state actors believe the policy has the potential to transform Ghana's economy. And government has already committed $300 to $400 million as seed funding to attract private sector investment. So, will Ghana's 24-hour economy policy be the key to unlocking a brighter future, or will it face the same fate as other government policies that fade away with the dawn of a new regime? Only time will tell. Judith Brown, TV3 News.
This is News 360. After the break, we explore how Ghanaian men are struggling silently with depression under the weight of masculinity and societal expectations. Stay with us for more.
men face. They are expected to be strong, to provide and to protect. But what happens when the weight of masculinity becomes too heavy to carry? In this report, Ayisha Yakubu explores how depression manifests in Ghanaian men and why they rarely speak about it.
Men are often regarded as pillars of society. They are expected to lead, provide, and remain strong. But beneath that surface, many men are silently struggling and wrestling with emotions that they've been taught to suppress. Kwame, not his real name, is one of the thousands of Ghanaian men experiencing symptoms of depression, exhaustion, isolation, anger, and even hopelessness. But like many, he remained silent for years.
The side of the world where we find ourselves, people have a certain perception of masculinity and how men should behave. But I think that sometimes even the most little things in our lives can put us in states of depression. Personally, it was as a result of my ambitions. I ran for an elections. I put a lot into it. I didn't win. It came from the little things, the people that I thought should have been there for me. It came from issues of sometimes parental pressure. When you don't talk to people, for me, it was quite easy because I've had thoughts at times where I felt like I should just probably walk from some story building and just maybe go down.
He kept his pain hidden behind a smile for years until one day it became too heavy to carry alone.
When I hear people talk about depression and people say that people shouldn't be behaving this way because they are going through an issue, I say that we all have different mental capacities and the manner in which we are brought up. So the way I'll handle a heartbreak is different from how my friend would handle it. Boys, they go through things like on a more serious note and they don't want to talk to people, like they don't want to have conversations about it. And it's because of the perception that people have about them. You're not a strong man, you're not a very strong person.
Kwame's silence mirrors a troubling social norm. From boyhood, many Ghanaian men are raised to believe that expressing emotion is weakness, crying is discouraged, rest is labeled as laziness, and asking for help unthinkable.
One thing about the male figure is this, that he finds it hard to open up because he feels that it's going to be a stain on his ego. By the time this guy is now opening up, it's like he's a wounded soldier.
Like as a guy, it's not very easy to actually open up to someone. You see, the thing is, when you want to open up with someone, it's like they see you as a man, you understand? So it's like you don't even have anybody to talk to. My dad always told me that, Charlie, the world is real, so go through it.
Even when a guy wants to open up, it's very hard for them and they don't even know how to do it. And they are depressed and they can't see any solution for them because they feel like they have to work it out by themselves.
They can't say something like, yeah, so if you talk to someone, maybe the person might help with what you are going through, give you solutions pertaining to that.
Globally, over 264 million people live with depression. While data on depression in Ghanaian men is limited, experts estimate at least 1 in 4 men in Ghana will experience depressive symptoms in their lifetime. Yet, very few seek help.
The thing about depression is that it comes with, or any mental illness comes with interrelational problems. So if you are somebody that's had a lot of friends, used to like going out, now you are depressed, start keeping to yourself. People try to find ways to cope. So for some people, their coping mechanism ends up sending them into substance use, be it alcohol, cannabis, opioids, and so on and so forth. So the depression can also get complicated with substance use.
A 2021 mental health survey in Ghana revealed that over 25% of adults reported signs of depression, but men were significantly less likely to reach out for support. In many households, emotional vulnerability in boys is discouraged early. Being a man becomes the standard, even when one is emotionally breaking.
Just by this mere how we are raised in our society, men sometimes might not even identify the symptoms in themselves in the first place, where the person feels sad, but oh, Charlie, it's life. So I believe despite the societal expectations, if the people that surround these men or just surround people who generally become depressed do at least a little bit of probing, we might start seeing more and more people coming to terms with the symptoms that they are manifesting and then showing up to the hospitals for treatments.
Breaking the silence starts with listening. Men and boys should be encouraged to speak up about what they are going through. It starts by reminding every man, young or old, that seeking help is not weakness, but strength. Ayisha Yakubu, TV3 News. The Member of Parliament for Ahanta West, Mavis Kulkwabisi Boateng, has launched the Ahanta Language Renaissance Project to revitalize and promote the Ahanta language in selected schools in her constituency. In support, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Ama-Kofi-Boa, has committed to facilitating the training of 40 additional teachers to bolster the project.
The teaching and learning of some Guinean languages, including Ahanta, have long been hindered by urbanization, globalization, and the prevalence of languages like English and Akan. It is to address this that the Member of Parliament for Ahanta West, Mavis Kulkwabisi, has launched the Ahanta Language Renaissance Project to institutionalize the Ahanta language, predominantly spoken in her constituency, as instruction in local schools and to fulfill her campaign promise. This has received massive support from her constituents.
So if the MP, together with the hunters or chiefs or anybody, is embarking on putting the language into our curriculum and ensuring that the language is being learnt from in our various schools, it will help us.
It's a positive sign, a positive initiative by the MP, because we don't want our language to get mixing or to exit.
It is in the right direction that Madam Mavis Kulkwabisi has initiated a process to begin the teaching of Ahanta language in our schools.
You will recall that the minister, in an appeal to Parliament on Wednesday, July 2, had emphasized the need to document and teach Ahanta, one of Ghana's 40 endangered languages, in schools, with its receiving bipartisan endorsement.
It is proper that the Ahanta language is recognized as part of the curriculum, especially for those in that part of Western region that speak Ahanta.
The language is dying slowly. So with this bold step and a call, a national call for us to revive the Ahanta language, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a step that we all need to support with all alacrity.
When we speak in our local language and when we learn in our local language, it leads to better comprehension. And not only does it lead to better comprehension, it also helps with citizenry participation.
The project, with the support of 20 volunteers, will be piloted in 20 local schools.
I am pleased to announce that the Ahanta West Municipal Education Directorate has identified teachers with an Ahanta background who have been trained for the pilot phase of the language program. 20 schools across the municipality have been selected, and the piloting of the Ahanta language curriculum is currently underway.
Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson has urged the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education to give this initiative the full institutional backing it requires.
The success of our Ahanta Language Renaissance project will depend on sustained partnership, advocacy, and action at all levels. I urge the Ghana Education Service and the Ministry of Education to give this initiative the full institutional backing it requires.
Meanwhile, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Emmanuel Ama-Kofi-Boa, has pledged to support the training of an additional 40 teachers.
The small thing we can do is to support the initiative. And so I've asked that I will also support the training of 40 teachers, and we will do that.
TV3 News, Ahanta West.
This is News 360. Ore Kwampo joins us shortly with some sports news.
New Sabo and a evaporated milk. Ooh.
Of course, fifth time that they are managing to stay unbeaten consecutively against their rivals, Hasselhoff.
Right, they go now, Mawule Wayo on the ball now for Hasselhoff. Can they move, get a moving? Cross comes a good one. Ball drops. It's a goal. And now through Amidou. Cross comes in a goal. It is a goal.
Backs in the Ghana Premier League this season, and right from plus of the whistle, they've shown good a chance. Has a goal.
Amankwa Kamara, will it be the leveler here? He goes in, he shoots, and he saved. What a mess from Amankwa Emmanuel. He went in, the run-up was poor, and he has missed the golden chance for the Phobian club.
And look at Karim Zito. Karim Zito is up on his feet, but it was a poor kick from Amankwa. Goalkeeper Kamara decided to stay put.
Well, away from that, let's move on to some women's football where Asisat Oshola was on the score sheet as the Super Falcons of Nigeria proved to be too strong in their opener for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, beating Tunisia by 3-0.
Swung in it goes, and it is in the back of the net, and there were just 4 minutes on the clock, and Nigeria's Super Falcons have scored already. Payne has come through to Babajide. Babajide has goal, and Babajide doubles. Go up, and this must be 3, and it is swept home. And finally, the Super Falcons do get their 3rd goal. And that was stylishly done as well. It's the substitute, Hezuro, who has found the bottom corner to the delight of not just herself, but her team.
Remember that Nigeria are record winners of the Women's AFCON, winning it for 9 times and are seeking to do it for a 10th time in Morocco. That they did start the competition on the best possible note with that 3-0 victory that we just watched in the highlights against Tunisia. However, let's hear from the head coach of the Super Falcons.
When you set out to go out for a game, the ultimate goal for you is to win. And the fact that the team won, obviously it is only natural that we are happy that the team won. Every player that is here representing the country that has made the team is equally of great importance. For us, they are all our players, and that we try as much as possible to promote team harmony and make everybody feel relevant in the team, and nobody feels more important than the other. The game is all about, it's a team sport. You all need each other. And so we try as much as possible to ensure that we do the right thing by being fair.
Well, that's how we'll be wrapping up the sports segment here on News360. Do remember that the Black Queens will be in action on Monday at 4 p.m. When they do face defending champions South Africa.
Let's now bring you some international news.
The U.S. has deported 8 people to South Sudan following a legal battle that saw them diverted to Djibouti for several weeks. The men convicted of crimes including murder, sexual assault and robbery had either completed or were near the end of their prison sentences. Only one of the 8 is from South Sudan. The rest are nationals of Myanmar, Cuba, Vietnam, Laos and Mexico. U.S. officials said most of their home countries had refused to accept them. The Trump administration is working to expand its deportations to third countries. The U.S. has deported people to El Salvador and Costa Rica. Rwanda has confirmed discussions, and Benin, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Eswatini and Moldova have been named in media reports as potential recipient countries. At least 68 people have been killed after floods swept through parts of central Texas. Keville County Sheriff Larry later confirms that 59 people, including 21 children, have been killed in the country. Have been reported across the state. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says authorities will stop at nothing to ensure every last missing person is rescued. Dalai Lama, spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhists, has turned 90 to cap a week of celebrations by followers, during which he railed China again and spoke about his hope to live beyond 130 and reincarnate after dying, fleeing his native Tibet in 1959. In the wake of a failed uprising against Chinese rule, the 14th Dalai Lama, along with hundreds of thousands of Tibetans, took shelter in.
That's how we draw the curtains on today's edition of News 360 live from our studios here, number 35, John Hammond Street in Accra. I am Noble Crosby Annan.
And I am Ayisha Yakubu. Have an amazing week ahead.
Bye-bye.